So in the course of my day, I had a video pop up on my feed on YouTube. Weird shit just populates. One of them was death wobble on a motorcycle, and I commented on it, left a comment in there, and gave me an idea. It's like I relate my story, my near-death experience with the death wobble on my '96 Springer. So years ago, I lived up northern Wisconsin, and I was married at the time, and the ex-wife and I decided to go out to a buddy's house. I'd bought a new gun, and we decided just to go up to my buddy's house. And anyways, we got out there. She rode her bike. I bought her a little Buell single cylinder to ride out there. And then I was behind her on my Springer, and we rode out there. She was just learning how to drive. We got there, and we started talking to my friends, and he lived out in the country, and he asked what was going on, telling him what was going on. And I'd recently picked up a new gun, and he said, "Would you bring it out?" I said, "No, I left it at home." He said, "Well, go get it." I only lived probably 4 miles away. So I'm like, you know what? I'm on my bike. It's a beautiful spring day, one of the first ones we've had that year. I will. I'm gonna run back to the house, grab a box of ammo, grab my gun, and head back out there. I'll be back in a few minutes. So she stayed there with them. She was chatting with them. And I jumped on my scooter, went home, grabbed the gun, threw it in the saddlebag, grabbed some ammo, same thing. Turned around, went back out there. And I turned onto the road that they lived on, and I could see their house. It was probably about, a mile down the road. But the road kind of was a straight stretch, but there was some dips and hills in it. And that bike I had set up ape hangers. I had 16-inch ape hangers on it with a 4-inch riser, so they were up there. And I had megaphone exhaust on it. They start out small, and they came and they got really big and really amplified the sound on that thing. It was just a monster loud. Not annoying loud like straight pipe, but it had a nice, just beautiful tone to it, but it was loud. Anyway, so I'm banging through my gears, and I just hit 5th gear, and I had given it some gas. I was probably going about 65 miles an hour, and I was coming up one of the crests in the hill, and I couldn't see over I was coming up one of the hills. I couldn't see over it, and it was weird because what started it was there was a bird up on the high wire next to the road. And with all that wind going by me, I didn't have a windshield enough. With all that wind going by me, with the megaphones next to me just barking, I could hear that bird up on that wire. It was a bluebird, an eastern bluebird. And I could hear it singing its song. It was singing its full head off. But it was like I was in a soundproof chamber when the bird was singing. I could still hear, my pipes going. I mean, it wasn't like that just disappeared. But the starkness of how crystal clear that bird's song was unreal. And I realized at that point, that's when I realized something wasn't right. And what I mean by something wasn't right is that time wasn't functioning like it normally functions. Keep in mind, at this point, I'm totally relaxed. I'm enjoying life. Things are great. I see this bird, and as it's singing, I realize that everything's in slow motion. The bird singing slow motion, the road, everything is like the speed. It just didn't seem like I was hardly moving. It was surreal. I don't know how else to describe it other than things just were moving. Fractions of a second seemed like 10 seconds. A full second seemed like a minute. It was just bizarre. Now, I've been in situations like that before where your life's in danger, and I was squared off with a bear one time, but that's a biological reflex. You get that shot of adrenaline, and your body goes into this survival mechanism where your perception speeds up. In this situation, time had slowed down, and I was perfectly relaxed. There was no reason for it, none whatsoever. So in those moments, I just had this thought pop in my head that the only time that this has happened to me before, where I've ever experienced anything like this, was when I was in a very dangerous situation. And about that time, I heard a voice in my head say, watch out. It wasn't a voice that I heard externally. It was just inside my head, but I very clearly, watch out. So I covered my clutch and I covered my brake, my front brake and my rear brake, and I let off the gas. And this is all happening. This whole story is happening with microseconds. Because like, remember, I'm coming up the top of the hill and I'm almost crested over the hill. So this all, from the time I heard the birds singing, was right as I'm coming up there. And from the time that happened till I crested the hill was second and a half maybe. As I crested the hill, you know, I covered my brakes and all that. At that moment, I started to crest the hill. And as I crested the hill, there were two cars in front of me. It was just a two-lane road. There were two cars coming straight at me. One was in my lane, and they were side by side. There was nowhere to go. And they were close. How? Why? They were kids drag racing is what it was. In the moment I seen the cars, that's when time went from being real slow to moving normal speed. Now I'm back to real time. And everything at that point happened so damn fast. It just, like you would expect, just seconds, boom, it was all over set before it even started. But what happened was, somehow, when time sped back up, because I'd covered my brake, let off the gas, and covered the clutch and was ready to downshift, I was able to maneuver. And I used to ride center lane. I used to ride right next to the yellow line. I rode right there because I was claiming the road. This is mine. It's just people like to crowd you sometimes. I rode that way just as a kind of to let people know this is my space, stay the hell out of it. But riding center line up that blind side, my goose was cooked. Somehow I managed to move over to the shoulder enough to avoid getting hit head on. And that's the first miracle. I should have been hit head on. Being able to get over and not get hit head on was the first miracle. So then, at that point, I went into a death wobble. I'd moved so fast, so quick, that big bike. It was just the maneuver I did, and I don't know how I did it, just reaction. It sent my bike into a death wobble. And with them ape hangers, a death wobble, they call it a death wobble because once you start wobbling, you're done. I guess there's a way I've heard people say you can power out of it. With this, it was so violent, I couldn't even hold on to the bars. I had all I could do to hold on. I couldn't operate the controls on. And the more, they call it death wobble because once it starts, it usually just magnifies until it's game over. So there I am flying down the road. At that point, I'm probably doing 60 to 58, somewhere in there. I was still going, and I was wobbling so bad that my back tire actually left the shoulder of the road. There was a really steep ditch. My back tire left the shoulder of the road before my front tire did. It was a really weird sensation. And at this point, time kind of slowed down again to where, oh shit, I'm in the kill zone, and that defense mechanism kicks in. So I had the sensation, the ass end of the bike getting sucked down in the ditch, and then the front end got pulled down secondarily. So now I'm in the bottom of a ditch, a U-shaped ditch, and I'm bouncing from side to side to side going down that ditch. And once I left the road and hit the brakes, when I hit the ditch, the other thing, even though I'm bouncing, the wobble stopped. But I'm upright, bouncing down the damn ditch. And I hit the brakes, and I swear to you, that bike sped up when I hit the brakes. It was just, and I heard this whack, and the bike went flying that way, and I went flying this way. I landed, the U-shape of the ditch, I landed perfectly flat, boom, like that on it. I must have been going 50 miles an hour. I hit that ditch, and I lay there, and my bike, it didn't hit on top of me. I was waiting for it to, but it didn't. It laid over, and I realized, I turned and looked, and it was there. It was laying on, all twisted up. So I'm laying there, and I was scared to move because I've seen people in crashes before where they get hurt really bad. And because of the adrenaline and everything, they don't know that they're hurt. And they got broken bones and stuff. And the first thing, like one guy, he tried to get up that I seen get hurt. He tried to get up after he crashed and his leg was shattered and he didn't know it. So as he was standing up, he went to put weight on that leg and it was all bad. I just, giving me the willies just thinking about it. But I didn't want that to happen to me. Plus, I was in a ditch, and up here, they take the brush mowers through, and they'll just mow that down. Well, you get brush stubble sticking up, punjai sticks like they had in Vietnam. And I was terrified that I was impaled. I didn't want to roll over right away because I was just terrified that that was the situation, that I would be something sticking out of me that it wasn't supposed to be sticking out of me. So I'm laying there, and I'm doing a systems check. I started wiggling my toes, and I slowly started moving, you know, this and that, and I'm moving my fingers, and I'm like trying to process everything that was going on. Meanwhile, there was a guy in the yard back there who was unloading groceries in his car. He seen it all happen. He just comes running up to me, and he's yelling, "You all right? Are you all right?" And I'm thinking, I think I am. And at that point, I slowly pushed myself to my feet, slowly put weight on. I didn't feel any pain or anything. And I stood up, and I was like doing this. I was like, "Is there anything sticking out of me?" And the guy's like, no, man, you just got some gravel in your arm. I just had some gravel in my arm up in here. I still got a couple small scars from it. But that was it. I had a bruise on the inside of my right knee, and on my left arm, I had some of them pieces of gravel. All I did is brush it off, and I was good. My bike was totaled. I was good. Just a bruise on the inside of the knee and a little bit of blood from that. Now, the people that ran me off the road, they kept going, never stopped. Check, they left me for dead. And the insurance, as you guys have been through this before, if you're ever in a hit and run and the other people leave, even if there's witnesses, if they don't catch them with the people, they pin that shit on you. And they pinned it on me. That's the only thing I got on my driving record is a motorcycle that crashed my bike. Well, I guess I did crash it, but I'm not the one who caused it. And they did end up catching that guy later. He drove past my house about 3 days later. Turns out the little prick lived about 4 doors down from me. And driving without a license, I found out they actually arrested him right outside my house. The cops were at my place taking the information down, and you know, because I reported it, and they were like, "You seen him driving?" I was like, "Yeah, I seen him driving." Like, "Oh, he's got like 5 operating without licenses against him, and he shouldn't be driving at all." That's probably why I didn't stop. As they're doing that, here he comes in his car, and I point, there he is, and they pulled him over right there, and he stopped, and I asked if I could talk to him. Now, all I wanted to do is tell the guys, like, hey, you know, you could have at least stopped and say, "Hey, are you okay?" Because I could have been laying there dying, and him stopping could have been the difference between me living or dying. And if he would have said, "I ain't got my license," and all this other stuff, if he'd have just checked to see if I was okay and then split, I would not have stopped him. I'd have been pissed, but I would not have stopped. And I wouldn't hold a grudge like I do this day. I'm like, you know, I guess I shouldn't even say I hold a grudge. It'd been easier to forgive him. At any rate, that's my story. You know, the freaky thing about it is that I you know, I've never made any sense to me other than supernatural, divine intervention, if you will, is why time slowed down before I realized I was in a situation. I was totally relaxed, not a care in the world, on top of the world for that matter. It was a beautiful day. You couldn't have asked for a better day than that. And then for it all to unfold that way, like I said, in other situations when I've been, you know, in the kill zone, in a tight spot, I've had that sensation where your adrenaline shoots and then everything slows down after the fact. That wasn't what this is. This was just, the only way I can describe it was divine intervention. Don't know why, don't know how. I got another story that happened to me once when I was a little kid, but I'm not gonna spill my guts on that one now. But anyways, that's my near-death wobble experience in divine intervention experience.